Alright, hello. Okay, you probably heard about this opening game for the football season with this incident with the Cowboys and Eagles, the spitting incident. Um, I'm not going to do the decode that you probably think I'm going to do. Well, mind you, you watch this channel and you think, well, I don't know what the hell Dan's going to do, to be quite honest. But I'm not going to go through all of the stuff that people have already gone through. You could go to Zach or Cody or somebody who's done all the 44 stuff with this. It's absolutely plumb chock loaded with 44 references. Okay, you know, we got the 4 here with Dak. We've got the 44, the 4-4 birthday here. We've got during the game we had the lightning delay of game with 4:44 left to go in the third quarter to bring us into the fourth quarter. So it's just absolutely loaded with 44 stuff. And then there's the tie back with the name Carter, and also the tie back with with President Carter to the last time these two teams came together. And actually, if you go back to those decodes to do with President Carter, if you recall, at that time, if you go back to one of my decodes then to do with that, you'll note that we were looking at how do I put it? Number jumps from recent eclipses, recent solar eclipses, and it just so happened that we were around about that time when he passed away, President Carter. We were at somewhere around the 444 days from, I think it was from the 1014 solar eclipse. So again, it's just absolutely loaded with, you know, fours, basically, this whole thing. But we can also jump to, and this is where I'm going to kind of pick up with what I'm going to be talking about, is this Cowboys reference here, and then the Carter reference, okay, Jalen Carter, okay, and the Carter reference with Beyonce, okay. So let's get to Beyonce. Let me just show you something. Cowboy Carter. Okay, so this cowboy reference. So where am I going to go with this decode? Come on, Dan. We're going to do some number jumps with this in a second. But what we need to do is we need to link it to something interesting. I think there is a link to this. Now, some people might say, well, you're stretching it a bit to make this work, but let's just go to it anyway, and then you'll know exactly what's happening in this scene. We're in Back to the Future 3. There, the Cowboys. Okay, this is where we're going Back to the Future 3, where everybody's a cowboy. So this cowboy reference, okay? Cowboy Carter. This scene, this is Marty has just rocked up into town. He's in the saloon, and in walks Mad Dog, and Marty basically insults Mad Dog. Yeah,
I hate it. You hear?
I hate it. He hates that name. Okay, and what ends up happening is Marty has got to dance. That's actually kind of interesting because Dakota Ring shout out mentioned that Lady Gaga, I think maybe it was just it. She may have brought. I don't know what date she released her Dead Dance on. Okay, so this is kind of interesting with this dance reference here. And what we're going to see actually is Marty goes through a death ritual thing right here. Okay. Anyway, so we've got the dance going on. Dance run. Okay. So he's doing the moonwalk. A Michael Jackson reference. So we've got this MJ reference. I believe Michael Jordan was at the game, maybe. Um, so the MJ again. What's interesting about MJ is 1310 MJ 1310. Okay, I got some very interesting number jumps actually for 1310 for the 13th of October coming up. I'm not going to do them today, right now, but here in the next few days we'll look at them. But just note that this MJ reference with what's going on here, because he's referencing Michael Jackson, Michael J. Fox himself, MJ, and at the game we had Michael Jordan at the game. Okay, now this is the bit we want. Just skips through it. Look, he finishes his little thing, and the spittoon lands right on Mad Dog. Okay, he's not happy about that. Note that there's 4 of them here, you know, like the 4 horsemen or whatever, but there's 4 bad guys. Okay, the number 4 coming up again, yeah. And again, old Dak is wearing the 4 shirt. Okay, and note that Carter has the 98 on, yeah, like the Queen's death date. Okay, and also Jalen Carter, again JC, Jesus Christ. Also note his birthday as well. Dak's birthday, the 29th of July, the white wedding. How many times have we talked about that? Just absolutely crazy. And then we've got the 32 again, like Magic Johnson now. Okay, so these are all sort of numbers that have been coming up. He has got Carter has the 4-4 birthday, and I believe he is. I want to say he's what year? I can't remember what year he is actually. Let's have a look because we don't want to get it wrong. Oh, it's 2001. Okay, yeah, it was 2001. Okay, so this is yeah, it's kind of interesting. 2001, isn't it? Anyway, let me show you something else, right? So we've got this whole spit thing going on here. Okay, and then basically they are gonna, oh dear, yeah. Basically he'd be dead right now if there wasn't any rounds left in his gun there. They chase him down and they basically hang him. Okay, and so then we have this. So this is kind of, it's not the first time we see the courthouse. We kind of see it in the background a bit, but this is the first time we sort of got the courthouse back into. This is the Temple of Diana just in its infancy there. Okay, just being built, and this is the sort of first little death ritual going on. Okay, and Doc's going to save him, and so I will give you another 44 reference here. Marty's getting hung, and Doc's going to save him, just like in the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. This is what this is taken from, which coincidentally is released. I believe it's, if you were to do a day jump just from the day of the year it's released, it's 250 days on to the particular date in the film. Okay, we're not worried about the years because we're all over the place with the years here. 1885 and whenever that came back out in the 60s, the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. But this came out 250 days on the calendar prior to the date that we're dealing with here in Back to the Future. Or no, I think I might have done it through to the 4th. I can't remember now when I was checking it, but it certainly ties in either with the football game or the day of the year that this is. This happens to be, by the way, this is another major point. This happens to be on the 3rd of September here in this scene. This is the 3rd of September back in 1885. Now the game is on the 4th of September. Now it's kind of important because there's some number jumps here that work for these two things, okay? And I'm going to come out and say it now, okay? We're looking at more dates rolling on from what we've been looking at. So there's a couple of really big interesting days coming up where a lot of the number jumps and a lot of the decodes that I showed you going up to the 1st of September and the 2nd of September all sort of tie together, and there's some of the decodes still can work for a couple of other dates later on in the year, which is extremely interesting. I'm going to do that video next very quickly. But I've got about 3 or 4 pages worth of number jumps that I've just redone different number jumps to see how they come out on these later dates, and it's really interesting. And what's even more interesting about the whole thing is it's kind of a continuation on of what is in the dollar bill. I know that doesn't make a lot of sense if you're just listening to me now, but if you've been following along with the channel for a little while now, what I'm telling you is, even though the last 3 dates, the 20th of August for Madonna, the 30th of August for Madonna, and then go into the 1st and 2nd of September for something else big to happen, maybe with the Hoover Dam or some kind of war or anything, something like that, World War III. Swinging and missing on all of those, except a couple of little bits and pieces. Mayor Rudy Giuliani, that was, I'm pretty sure, tied into all of this, and we will touch on him here in a minute. So that's kind of mixed in with the whole stuff. And then the other big thing that happened, to do with the war sort of thing, which I hadn't even really thought about, because I was like, I wonder if anything did happen on the 1st or the 2nd. Well, we didn't have anything the 1st, 2nd, but we did have on the 3rd, we had the Chinese do their big, really big military parade. So I thought that was kind of interesting with the whole thing, okay? Anyway, getting sidetracked here. Doc is going to save Marty anyway, with the old good, the bad, and the ugly thing going on here, right? Now, let me just show you something about this gun, okay? For just another 44 reference, okay? The gun is a 1866 Winchester Yellow Boy. I wouldn't actually mind one of these myself. It looks a pretty nice gun. It shoots a 44 rimfire. So this is, again, and I kind of like the idea of the rimfire. Okay, the fiery ring around the outside of the Eclipse, yeah, the ring of fire, the rim fire, ring fire. Get it? Anyway, so the 44. So this is a 44 caliber rifle. Okay. Kind of interesting, isn't it? Another 44 reference here in this scene. Okay. And we had how many 44 references in that game? Just dozens of 44 references. Okay. Super duper interesting. And again, what happened right before the lead up to this is that Marty says you don't want to get struck by lightning. Okay, and that's exactly what happens to Doc. Okay, so he got a lightning warning, okay, a storm warning, and then he got sent back to 1885. Okay, that's exactly what they did in the game. They gave them the storm warning, basically because of lightning. Okay, and where do they end? Where does what the first number we see is Doc sends him a letter from 1885 with the 1st of September on it. Okay, so super duper interesting. That puts us in this period right here is in the first week of September. Okay, just as this game is in the first week of September. So anyway, with all that being said, what do I want to do? I want to show you a few number jumps. So let's start off with I think decoding. Cody mentioned no, or maybe this was I don't know who mentioned. I think this was maybe Cody mentioned this with Jay-Z having the 444 album. Notice it's the 13th. This is going to be important coming up. This number 13, and again, the 13th of October is a date coming up that's interesting. I don't know necessarily if anything's really going to happen that day, but there is definitely some interesting stuff. Some interesting number jumps for that day. Anyway, the interesting thing about Jay-Z is I've just put it in here so I wouldn't forget. Why does Jay-Z call himself Hover or Hover or however you want to say that? Because it is a play on the word Jehovah. Okay, obviously J, and now he's Jay-Z instead of Jehovah. Okay, or the Hove, or I don't know anything about Jay-Z, to be quite honest. Apart from I have come across this in the past. We've talked about it because of the connection to the Hoover. Okay, the Hoover, Jehovah, the Hoover Dam, Jehovah, Jehovah. Okay, so this connection back again with the dam, with God. Okay, and of course, what is Biff's name? Mad Dog. In the Biff character in the third one is Mad Dog. Yes, reverse that for the God Dam. Okay, yeah, and that is what happens here. We get walled away, we get damned off away from God. Okay, let's do some number jumps now. So what I'm going to do, because there's a couple of references, because in that little moonwalk scene, okay, we've got two little connections there. We've got the moonwalk itself, and we've got a Michael Jackson reference, and in this actual scene, he is doing the tune to, he's sort of, I don't know, sort of making the sounds to Billie Jean. Okay, if I could just stop on a. Well, you can't quite hear it, but anyway, it's Billie Jean that's being referenced. Okay, so I want to do two number jumps, and I want to show you something that's popping up here, and then we'll backtrack on a previous decode and some numbers that are showing up. So this is, this Neil Armstrong, technically the first man to work on the moon during the Apollo 11 missions on the 20th of July, 69. Okay, 20th of July 69 through to 9/4, which is, we're going to the game day now. Okay, notice that we can go back to the day, it's the 3rd of September on that day in Back to the Future, and we can click the end date and it's going to work out the same. So this is quite nice. This is what I'm talking about, where it works for both days. Or the 9/4 is tying into 9/3. 20500. Okay, the 25 is popping up here. The number 25. Okay, so we'll keep that in the back of our minds. Okay, so the 25 is popping up there. Let's now look at Billie Jean, because he was doing the kind of music to Billie Jean. Okay, January the 3rd, 83. This is quite interesting, this January the 3rd, because we also had a connection with Eli Manning and his birthday being January the 3rd back in, I think it was 80 or 81, I can't remember. But yeah, Eli Manning has and again, the number 13, yeah, the 1-3 tying this together, okay? Let's look at that number jump. I'm going to have to hurry up here because my throat is going. If you can't tell, I got a bit of a cold. 15583. Let's click it or tick it. I'm going to the first here. I'm kind of cheating a little bit here. I'm kind of jumping around a little bit on the dates. I think in anything between the 1st through to about the 7th would be interesting to look at, because that's the time period in Back to the Future that we're dealing with. Okay, let's click this one. 1818 prime. And again, why is that interesting? Because all of our stuff with Eli also was tying in with Peyton Manning, and 1818 was that big day that connected us with football. Okay, with Peyton Manning. Okay, football. Why do I say football? Because Ozzy if we go back to the Honda decode in Back to the Future that I did, that number plate there tied us in with Ozzy Osbourne, and that also gave us the football reference with Ozzy, which was Fotball or Bale. FOT was on the number plate, and then Ozzy in the reverse JL alphabet decode cipher, whatever you want to call that. I'm calling it the reverse JL, because he did it with Elvis, which comes out with Hover. Again, kind of interesting all this. But Ozzy comes out BAAL, yeah, BAAL, Baal or Bale or how you want to pronounce that. But what we got was a reference to football. Gosh. Anyway, 1818 was his numbers, and we're going to be looking at him again because this is super duper interesting with the 1818 again, with Peyton Manning. Anyway, let me show you something else. So already that's kind of interesting. 9-1 is when the letter is written by Doc. Okay, that's essentially the first number that we see. Again, it's tying in with the game, because the first number we see when Doc gets struck by lightning, that's the first thing we see is September the 1st, 1885. Okay, on the letter. So that is, again, it's all sort of tying together. Anyway, kind of losing my way here a little bit. So we've got two lots of we've got this 25 reference, and then we've got this 1818 reference, which is kind of interesting. And then I thought, well, we better do some number jumps with this album release and the other album release. That's the two Carters that connect back to Jalen Carter. Okay, so this is the release of Beyonce's album. Notice the 525 showing up here. Okay, through to, and this is again her 44th birthday on 9/4. I'm going to show you why that is super duper important. The 9/4. Why 9/4 is actually a very tight 44 reference. We'll do that in just a second. But so we got the 525 showing up again. Let's do, what was the other one? 4/4. and this is the 30th of June 2017. 30th of June 2017. And again, this doesn't look very interesting on the surface. If we click it though, and I'm going to the first again, okay, I'm cheating again, I'm going to the first, and let's look at this one. You can probably switch that date around a little bit as well if you, anyway, I don't know, but it was just interesting. It was the 2555th composite there, so the 25's popping again. Okay, now what's interesting about the 25's is a certain dude actually died on this particular day as well. Well, could we find him in here? Where's he gone? No, 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 no. And this is something else I've got to do. Oh, don't know if you saw that fight the other day, but I will do something on that Psycho Stew fight as well, because there's something really interesting about that. Giorgio Armani died, right? He's got the 7/11 birthday, and obviously September the 4th, the day of this game as well. Let's look at where that comes out in terms of a number jump now. Okay, 7/11, 1934 through. Okay, nothing majorly interesting. Click it. What is it? Nothing super duper interesting. But what we need to look at is this. It's 91 years, 55 days. And I'm thinking to myself, seeing these 25's and that number popping up before, and I'll show you why this connects now back to Madonna, because of Rocco Ritchie again. Rocco Ritchie through to this 9/4 date, including the end date, 25 years, 25 days. Remember we did the speed decode the other day? The top of the bus has the 25/25 on it, okay? And we were looking at some of the stuff in there. The connections with Madonna, connections back to Rocco Ritchie, 2001, and again, here we go. This is anyway, just sorry, getting sidetracked thinking. This is our 25/25. So all these 25's we're seeing, you know, super duper interesting, like this one, yeah, like the one with Jay-Z and the one with Beyonce there. Also, let's just do one other little cheat here. Let's drop off the inclusive end date. Now you can see that 9/4. Now look at Giorgio Armani. He's 91 years, 55 days old. Rocco Ritchie is 9,155 days old, yeah? Do you see this synchronicity here? This is absolutely mental. So all of this stuff is tying in now. All of these numbers with the 44's and everything is tying in with Rocco Ritchie. Let's go to a decode chart here. We'll go to the Queen's Cross decode chart, and I'll show you why 44 is so important. You already know this if you watch the channel regular. We just don't get, if you're new, don't get overburdened with this right now. We're just going to concentrate inside the orange box here, and what we have is quite simple actually. Is this is a real thing here. This first line is the Fibonacci cycle. This is Fibonacci numbers, and it's the first 24 Fibonacci numbers reduced down to a single digit. And what you'll find is that every 24 numbers, the cycle repeats itself. So you don't have to go 24 numbers on, reduce them all down, and then you've got the cycle. Okay, this is the cycle here. And again, this is the Lucas numbers cycle here. Okay, and then this third one, I don't know if there's really a proper name for it. I've not come across anything referencing it in the world of mathematical literature that I haven't checked really anyway. But I call this one the pi cycle. Okay, simply because the first three letters of it have the number pi right there. Okay, But these are 3 different cycles, and then what we have further on down the table is basically, where this is now starting on the number 4. Okay, you see it's going 415, and then the next one's 516, and then 617. So you see they're going up. This is actually just another place. 415 is just another place out of here, out of the Fibonacci cycle. See 415, and so this is just basically, this now just forms the start of this next cycle here. Okay, and it's the same. This is Fibonacci cycle running through here. Okay, it's just the same. So there's only 3 different cycles here. They just start in different places. Okay, and each cycle happens to have, one of these starting points in it as well. Oh dear, difficult to explain. It's quite simple when you look at it. Anyway, what is important about this is these are all written out in order, starting at the number 1. I called this one the Queen's Cross chart because you can do an inversion of this, which ends up with 911 at the middle of here. But the reason why it's the Queen's Cross chart is because of this 98. Yeah. Now note Jalen Carter's number. Was it 98 or 89? I can't remember. But that's his number. Okay. This is the Queen's death date. Okay. This is why it's called the Queen's Cross. Notice what is at the center of this thing. Yeah, the center balance point of this thing is 44. Note that we've had quite a lot of references to 66. You'll note that Highway 44 actually mirrors a lot of 66. Okay. Actually, 44 actually became, in several lengths of the highway, a replacement for 66. So there's this connection with the, obviously with 66 and 44, 666 and so forth and so on, and 444. But anyway, we can see now why, we can see with the 44 references why the 9th of September, the 4th of September for the game being played on ties in with 44. Okay, we can see why that's so important. And for the sort of double sort of reference here, you can see also that, coming on in front of this as well is 4994 and then the 44. So super duper important stuff. Okay. Was there something else I wanted to reference with this? Okay. I feel like let's just scooch along here. So Jalen's birthday on the 4/4, and if we scooch down now to pi here, okay, you'll see what's above this above pi is this, okay, the 898, okay, again his shirt number, and then below that is Dak's birthday, 7/29, the white wedding. Okay, so you see how these numbers kind of tie through, on pi, and this is what was so important about 9/1 that we just had, was it was a huge reference to pi, and obviously Madonna is also a huge reference to pi, and all the number jumps and everything else. And again, then we had the 3rd of September with the Chinese military parade, which was a reference back, and they said they did it on that day to honor the end of World War II. So it was a tie back in with World War II again. Okay, and that, we'd just come off that palindromic 86-year jump, with which happens to be 31,413 days with so that's our pi reference. So anyway, and don't forget that 44 obviously is tied into that war. What else to say about it, really? Yeah, I don't know. I want to show you the other chart just so you can see as well that 4-4 kind of cross-reference, or the things that cross-reference back with 9-4 and 4-4. Okay, so let's go to this chart, which one do I want to go to? Do I want to go to that one first? Let's just do the 4 chart because we want to do some stuff with 4s as well. So this is a chart of Lorraine, and scribbled into this one this time is this extra row here in purple, which then changes the totals down, and I've got them scribbled in purple down the bottom here. The reason why I wanted this one up though is because I wanted to show you what the reference to 4-4 was first. So 4-4, if we look at the number 4 here and then the number 4 here, we can see that 11 becomes our cross-reference. Okay, so 44 is referencing the number 11. This is the thing that was lost to the underworld. Yeah, ground zero here, and the Twin Towers was sitting here, and then they disappeared where? They went down into here, and they disappeared. So essentially they went subterranean, they went into the metaphysical, they went into the underworld on that day. Okay, and that's what has to be resurrected back out from the dead. Okay, so this is interesting with this 44 reference. Okay, now what else I want to say about 4-4? There was something else I wanted to mention. I wanted to do the 4-9. Okay, so the 4-9, the game day, Beyonce's birthday, coming on to 44th birthday. Look at the number that's popping up there. Yeah, 118. 11th of August is Rocco Ritchie's birthday. Okay, so you can see, super duper interesting, isn't it? What else have I got to mention? There is a 4-4 going diagonally across here. I don't know what, you can pick out what you will from that, but it is interesting what you have here. Let me just draw the thing around it. Is this 1-3-4 that's kind of mirrored here? Again, the 1-3-4 shows up in Back to the Future just when Marty rolls down the hill after he's watched Doc get shot in Back to the Future 1. Okay, and he watches himself then time travel back to 1955, and he rolls down the hill there, and it's 1:34 on the clock at that point. And you'll see that the 13 references start becoming important with this 44 in here. And of course you could add these 1-3-4s up, and it makes you an 8 here and an 8 here, an 88. I'm just looking at patterns in the table here. Anyway, enough waffle. There was a couple other things I just wanted to mention. Let's see if I can remember. I mean, the most important thing was this. This was absolutely crazy, this Giorgio Armani thing. And again, the name, just the name. Giorgio, the George reference. If you recall, well, actually, let's just go back to this table. This little block of numbers right here. Okay, I mean, really, we're dealing with everything in here, but this little block of numbers that had Ozzy Osbourne's birthday in it, and it had Peyton Manning's birthday running this way, 324, which is in reverse 423 is St. George's Day, and then notice that Prince George is also born on 722, same day Ozzy Osbourne dies, 722. Okay, and it runs, then that runs down this way as well with the 324, 423, and notice that the start of Lucas numbers is also in here, the 213, which is also Ozzy Osbourne's birthday again. Yeah, 312, reading it that way. This was what was on the number plate in Back to the Future on the Honda. Yeah, 437, and then it's like ULG or something, and ULG, the ULG that was on there, converts over, I don't know if this is exact right order, but FOT, yeah, and then Aussie converted over directly actually to Bol, okay, or Bale, okay. So what we ended up with was, with that number plate, was this set of numbers here, which ties in, you know, his death date and the footballer himself, Peyton Manning, who happened to be, that was part of the decode, is that on that day, Peyton Manning was 18 days old on 722. Okay, so that was all that decode there, the 437, and now I've completely lost my train of thought with what I was talking about. But you can see that, you know, all this stuff is tying back together. Yeah, I mean, that Honda, yeah, is then re-referenced in Pulp Fiction. Again, Pulp Fiction came out in '94, and in Pulp Fiction, um, Butch crashes the Honda with, you know, because he sees Marcellus Wallace, and Marcellus Wallace was our connection back with Magic Johnson, and what was I going to say? He has to crash that Honda, okay, and then what ends up happening at the end of that is Zed is dead, yeah, and obviously with Ozzy, the Z is super important, yeah, Zed is dead, with the Honda crashing, and the Honda in Back to the Future has this number on it, and then we've just had, get this, on the day that we were looking at for Madonna, well, one of the days we were looking at for Madonna, which was 8:30, we had Mayor again, because that was important with the white van and also the Mayor Red Thomas's re-election stuff going on, and obviously Rudy Giuliani. Rudy equates to the color red, and so we have this, you know, connection back, and that was all in the background when that car drives by in Back to the Future in 1955. We see the 9-1 with Marty again, okay? And in fact, we actually see 9155, 1955, which again is what we've just seen here with Giorgio Armani with the 91 years old, 55 days, and then again with Rocco Ritchie with 9155 days old on 94. So I think we're all the references are pointing to us still moving along here. Where we're getting off the roundabout, I'm not quite sure, but all the references are still moving along and tying together. Okay. Anyway, let me just show you something with Mayor Rudy here, the rude boy. Let's see, where the hell has he gone? I don't have the number jumps in here to do the other things here. I keep skimming over there. But notice he was born in 1944 as well. And what I thought was interesting, so what was interesting about this story was he was given the medal. Oh, this might actually be right here somewhere. Anyway, it don't really matter. He was given the Trump gave him the Medal of Freedom or something like that, something to do with freedom anyway, some kind of medal, on the 1st of September. Okay, he got hit by the Honda. Okay, hit by the Honda. So there's Honda reference. Let me show you his number jump from his birthday through to Donald Trump's birthday. 747 days. Really? And he's getting the Medal of Freedom, or whatever the hell they're calling it. 747. Yeah? 747, the day of freedom. Yeah? 1774. Oh, and look at this. It just happens to, I just thought I better click it just to make sure. We've got the 9-2 popping up on one of the composites, and then the other one is 614 again. Time back, the double reference back to Donald Trump, 614. Just absolutely unbelievable. And we had a 747 reference with Madonna not that long ago. I can't remember what it was though. We started looking at the Boeing 747 and some of the dates that it was first flown and so forth and so on. Again, blooming hell, this connection with the aeroplane. I mean, you've got to look at the shape of the aeroplane. Yeah, it's like a bow and arrow. Okay, and the reference to 9/11 with this, and this is the most iconic plane there is, the 747, and most iconic passenger plane, I would say. I think I've covered everything. I know there's a lot of wiffle waffle in there, but that 25 reference again, the 25 references showing up with Rocco Ritchie being, 25 years, 25 days, and then the Giorgio Armani dying on the 9/4 as well, on the same day of this game. Yeah, the 9/1/55, 91 years, 55 days old, tying back in with this. And then, again, this scene, we're dealing with, this idea of death and resurrection with Marty here again in this particular scene with the hanging. Oh dear, oh dear. The Good, the Bad, the Ugly came out on, I think it's the 29th of December through to, I wish I'd left that one up in here. I can't remember if it was the 1st or the 4th that I did, but it's 250 days. So again, I mean, I don't know what else to say. It's just absolutely crazy. But the spittoon going all over Mad Dog here. Yeah. What else to say? That's got to be it, innit? That's got to be it. Okay, and then the 44 saving Marty. Okay, the 44 is the balance point. Okay, yes, it's going to reference the thing of it is, okay, all of this stuff. Let's go back to it. All of this stuff is going to reference death and resurrection. I know a lot of people like to pick on the death part of stuff, but all of this stuff, this is a flip over point here. Yeah, this midpoint is a flip over point. It's death and then resurrection. And again, when you get to here, death and resurrection. And let me show you. So the inverse of this table, in fact, it's not really an inverse. It's just I've just moved. This black line that I'm putting here would essentially be the same as this black line here. And you could call this is just the opposite place to this in the cycle, yeah? This line here to this blue line, right? So if we do, let me just show you now. So I just did the inverse of it. I called it the King's Cross. Obviously 9/11 is at the top of this one, and again, a lot of people believe that 9/11 is also a reference to the birth of Christ as well. So, you know, obviously Christ is the King of Kings, so it makes sense to call it the King's Cross. You'll notice what's at the center of this one. Okay, yeah, 9551. Yeah, and we're seeing Rocco Ritchie with the 9155. Okay, so this is, oh dear, and I've just noticed something here as well. If you reverse this 9, this makes the word piss, which kind of reminds me of something in Thrift Shop, the song, the Macklemore song that we decoded. They do reference piss in it, so excuse my crudity there. But anyway, again, this is again 1955 is the year they go back to. This is in, again, the background where Marty is reborn. We were looking at the 8:30 on the clock tower at that point. So yeah, I don't know what to say. You know, 9/1 obviously is, you know, the 9/1 was a very big date, and now, you know, I was expecting something a little bit more than just, you know, Rudy getting the Freedom Medal, you know, and obviously the military parade thing was quite a big deal. That would have actually been, had that been on the first, I would have been more. I mean, the third's pretty close still, though, you know, and it does tie into the whole thing with the Hoover Dam. Obviously, the 9-3 numerology is what ties us back to the Hoover Dam. So, anyway, you will be. I'm gonna, the next decode coming up, which should I don't know if I can. I don't know if I've got the energy to do it tonight. I'll just do it tomorrow. But it is super duper interesting because it's some of the same stuff that we've looked at before, and it comes out on. So not only will we coming out good on, well, on the dates that nothing really happened on, but this will also come out on some other dates that are actually in the dollar bill as well. So anyway, I'll have to do kind of a decode where I show you the dollar bill, the numbers that are there, and then we'll do the rehash of the same decodes that I've already done, so you can see why that all ties together. But anyway, I'm going to leave it there for this one. Hope you enjoyed that. Something a little bit different than just I mean, the amount of 44 stuff in that game was just unbelievable, and you know, everybody's done a pretty good job of like finding all those 44s, I think. But yeah, I don't know what else to say. Oh, what was this? This was the Victory Day parade. V for Victory. 80 years. Very interesting. Remember, our pie jump was from the beginning of World War One. Okay, and so they're doing 80 years. Actually finished on it's actually the 2nd. So they're doing an 80th anniversary. So secretly, even though it took place on the 3rd, they are referencing the 2nd. This is 80 years in a day, which ought to be. So that's kind of interesting with the 18 again. Okay. Coordinates 39, 116. Oh dear, oh dear. Anyway, 9-3 taking place on 9-3. I'm leaving it there. Notice that they put the wall in there. That's kind of nice as well. This reference back with the wall that's got to come down, which is the Hoover Dam wall. Okay, so that's kind of interesting as well. But anyway, all sort of superficial stuff. Have I done everything? This was okay. 9-3. So this is when Marty gets hung, so to speak, and does the spittoon thing with the moonwalk. 140 years. Yeah. The 1-4 showing up again with the clock tower. 140 in one day. Okay, quite nice through to that particular day. I don't think there was anything interesting. 51, 135. If you notice that 135, it is kind of interesting with the 44 though. Why? Because just one last thing. The 44 there, what you'll notice from what's on each side of that is 1, 3, 5, and then what have we got coming here? 1, 3, 5, and then 13 even. Yeah, so what's crossing with that 44 is 135s. Okay, if you get that. So that is again super duper interesting with 511. Get it? With this connection with 44 years as well. Or the number 44, should I say. Okay, thanks for watching. Yeah, I'll catch on another one soon, I guess. I'll try to do this other one tomorrow, and this and this other nonsense story, Psycho Stew. I don't know if you saw this with him supposedly getting the SHIT knocked out of him by this dude here, Raja Jackson. If you saw that little clip where the guy supposedly gets in there and is so mad he can't contain himself and he's going to beat the hell out of him, and it does look like he does, but we'll talk about it when I do the video. Notice he's 25 years old. Again, kind of interesting. We'll do this decode. You can run the numbers for yourself if you like, but it's going to tie into, again, one of these other decodes that I'm redoing. So there's something very suspect about the whole thing, and that whole story just occurring right when it did. So anyway, we'll do that one here tomorrow maybe. Alright, thanks for watching. Alright, good night.